Honorable Men Discord. Let's talk Renee Good and the ICE agent. Let's talk about it.
How you see yourself is how you perceived. I see a man strong, gifted, head strapping, never down on his knees, begging. Gotta make a way, even in my darkest hour. Say the odds against me was new. I would never cower.
As always, welcome back to another episode. As always, I appreciate everyone for tuning in. If you haven't already, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and let's get straight to it. I really want to make this a respectful dialogue because Renee Good is no longer here. May she rest in peace. I wanted to make sure I start off with that. If I sound like I have a cold, it's because I'm battling a cold. Okay, but I still wanted to get this episode in. I still wanted to speak on this topic respectfully, always respectfully. Now, as I go through this, I might pause the video. There might be some edits because, again, I'm fighting this cold. So what I have here is a few different reactions to what took place in Minneapolis. And I'm going to go through them. I'm going to pause them as well and share my personal interactions with law enforcement, my personal experiences when I was younger with adults telling me how I should respond to law enforcement. And it's important that I state that because I don't want this episode to come across as if I'm disrespecting Renee Good, because I definitely do not intend to disrespect Renee Good in her passing. Okay, but I just want to share something that I don't hear a lot of people talking about. And I know right now the country's split. There's constant conversations about, it's almost as if you're with the left or you're with the right. When things like this take place, if you say something that's not necessarily aligned with how everybody views it, it's you're with the right. It's you support the actions of President Trump. And I'll be honest with you, I don't believe anything in this life is that simple, is that black and white. And I do believe a lot of times there's a lot of scenarios and situations that you have to study and dissect on a case-by-case basis. You can't just jump out there and just try to bulk everything as one and then say this fits with all that other stuff. Some things you have to really analyze case by case. Now, I'm going to start by saying this. I've watched several different versions of this video, and I do not believe Renee Good was trying to run the agent over. And I'm not saying that because of what other people are saying. I'm speaking on what I saw with my own eyes. I don't believe that was her intentions. Right? Because I did see, it seemed as though the wheel was being turned. She slightly backed up and then she kind of turned. So I don't believe that was her intentions. I know representatives of that department is saying that's what it was. But from what I saw in the video, it didn't appear that way. With that being said, I also know when you're dealing with something in real time is a lot different than videos that could be paused and rewatched over and over again. Any scenario in real time feels different being out there. All right? It just feels different. Being in the cold, tensions are high, people heckling. And I'm not justifying the fact that she lost her life. Let me make that clear also. So as we continue with this episode, I need you to remember what I said at the beginning. I don't believe she intended to run the agent over, and I don't believe that she deserves to die, right? But there's a lot of things that I also have to consider in this whole scenario, okay? And again, what I'm about to say may come across as though I'm coming up with excuses, but I'm going to insert myself in how I was raised, especially as a black male in this country, as a black male in this country, all right? So before I even go into this guy's video, let me just make this clear. Before I was able to obtain a driver's license, or yes, before I obtained a driver's license, up until I did obtain a driver's license, and I believe I was probably, when I got my license, I think my permit at 16, I got my license somewhere near 18, if I'm not mistaken. It was many years ago. I'm far removed from that age. In terms of when a police officer pulls you over, and I know I'm talking about a police officer, not an ICE agent, but still someone that represents the law, right? I was always told, take the engine off, put the keys on top of the hood, hands on the dash. I'm going to say that again. And no, I didn't have to look this up. This is what I was told. All right? And it's been embedded in my mind since I received my driver's license. You take the ignition off, put the keys on the dashboard, put your hands on the dashboard. If not your hands on the dashboard, both hands on the steering wheel. I was also told that you're supposed to listen to the directives of law enforcement. Now, I know before I continue with my examples of my personal experiences, I know there's going to be some people that say, well, this country is trying to condition the U.S. citizens for some type of like takeover of our rights. I'm not here to say whether or not that's a true thing that's going on in this country. I'm not here to say it's not a true thing. I'm here to talk about interaction with law enforcement when I was coming up as a young man. With that being said, another thing I was taught when operating a vehicle, if you hear sirens, things of that nature, you're supposed to pull to the right. You look in your rearview mirror, you try to figure out where the vehicles are coming from, you pull to your right. All right? If it's an intersection, obviously, if it's not a situation where the vehicles are behind you, you're to stop and wait until they're clear to go. Why do you do these things? Because they have the right of way, they have the authority. They especially when the lights are on, it's an emergency situation, and it's an important event that they have to get to. Whether it be the hospital or they have to get to a location of a potential crime or an event. Why am I saying all these things? I'm saying this because, again, may Renee rest in peace. Out of everything that everyone's talking about with this event, again, I don't believe she meant to run the agent over. But out of all the things everyone's talking about in this event, and I was trying to look through the feeds to see if anyone had a similar thought process as I do. Maybe they do, maybe they don't want to say it because many people are saying other things. The first thing that came to my mind was, why didn't Renee comply? Why didn't she comply? Why didn't Renee comply? That's the first thing that came to my mind. And I know by speaking on this during this time where there's high tensions, it's going to upset a lot of people. And I don't mean to disrespect Renee's passing. I don't mean to disrespect her family. I just want to have this conversation. All right? And I'll say what I said in the beginning. I don't believe she intended to run over the agent. And I'm not even saying that it's right that she's not here with us today. But I am my own person. I am my own man. And I have my own thinking process. I don't make episodes based on what everyone else is saying. I honestly turn this computer on and I speak my mind. All right? And I speak my mind as respectfully as possible. So again, I'm going to say, when I first saw this incident, the first thing that I thought of was, why didn't she comply? Now, I know there's going to be those that say, why were the officers so aggressive? And again, here's where I insert my own experiences. It doesn't benefit you to just disregard their orders. And whether or not their orders are correct, I would advise all people not only just my kids, I would advise them to comply. And again, there's going to be those people that say that's exactly what this country wants you to do, is to um, strip you of your rights. I'm not here to debate that. That's for another episode. I would comply because then if there's any type of excessive force after the fact, that gives me leverage. It gives me leverage, especially when I know I'm not doing anything wrong. This scenario is completely different because I know they were saying her background. And if I'm mistaken, please correct me in the comment because I don't want to be incorrect with this, but I believe they said her background was part of the coalition, I guess, that notifies the community that when ICE is in town, and they consider them as like disruptors of some sort. So Renee was not out there just driving down the road. Could we agree on that? She was not just out there driving on the road. And again, I'm not saying the outcome was right. I'm not saying the outcome was right. I think what was right is it would be Renee still being here with her kids. But I do have to point out the fact that Renee was there for a reason. Renee chose to be there with a reason. This is not a simple situation of you happen to be in the area, driving by the area, and you meet these agents. And even still, I would stand on the same thing. Comply, comply, comply. Now, everyone's going to have their own takeaway with this incident, and I can respect that. We all have different point of views. But regardless if Renee was part of a coalition, regardless if Renee happened to be a person that was driving through the neighborhood to get to her destination and she came up on ICE, I would say the same thing. Comply, comply, comply. But if you're part of a coalition and they have directives and they have game plans, or they have things put into place, protocol to intentionally disrupt, that's a whole nother story. That's a whole nother story. And they have to hold some accountability to this outcome. Because again, I would say comply. I would not have my vehicle blocking an agent's vehicle. But once the agents come out the vehicle, I personally was taught as a young man, you comply. Especially as a black man. So I see it through a different lens. I can't speak from the lens of Renee. I don't know what she was taught. I don't know her background. That's why I can't speak for Renee. I was taught to comply. And I've been in some scenarios with police officers. I've said this before in one of my episodes. I was a passenger in my friend's car while he was driving. We got pulled over on the Long Island Expressway out here in New York. And I was the passenger with a police officer came up on the side, on my side of the vehicle, because the highway was on the side of my friend, the driver. I had a gun drawn at my window facing me. So I've been in a scenario where a gun was drawn on me, and I knew to tell my friend not to move fast. And I also told him to move, I encouraged him to move slow whilst he was getting the paperwork, because the other officer that was on his side was asking for the paperwork for the vehicle. And I told my friend not to move fast. And this is when, like, wet behind the ears, he just got his license not too long ago, and his mother let him drive her Ford Taurus at the time. And I was wise enough at that age. Not saying Renee's not wise, so don't jump to conclusions. I knew from what I was taught from older people to comply, not to move, listen to directives. And the reason why I'm bringing that up is because when the agents came out the vehicle, especially the one that grabbed the doorknob, I would have had my hands in the air and I would have said, what is going on? Why so aggressive? But if they wanted to get in, I would unlock and then let them get in, and I would step out. I'm not going to escalate the situation. People around, people are recording. I'm going to comply. And if I get out the vehicle and then they slam me to the ground, that's a different scenario. But the very last thing I would ever do is put the car in operation to back it up or move forward. So this is not even about whether or not she was allegedly trying to run over the agent. I wouldn't even go backwards. I would not move that vehicle. I would not move that vehicle. And I say this respectfully. May she rest in peace. But I haven't heard anyone online talk about this, about the fact that it wasn't, in my opinion, and I'm sure somebody else agrees, but they're probably not saying it on social media, or I just haven't found that person. It was a bad idea to move the vehicle in the first place. There's so many layers to all of this, but we're not talking about it. We're talking about the end result, which I understand. Emotions are flaring, but a lot of the end result is unfair because we have to, as people and as individuals, take accountability for our actions. We can't control what anyone else does, but we can control our actions. And if our actions help to escalate a situation, and I'm not saying Renee knew that the outcome would have been this, because I'm pretty sure if she knew this was the outcome, she would have chose differently. But what I am saying is we have to take accountability for our role. Why was Renee's car faced like that? Why did Renee comply? Why, when the agents pulled the car door, Renee didn't step out of the vehicle? She's a law-abiding citizen. Why didn't she step out the vehicle? And you could say she has rights. She doesn't have to get out of the vehicle. I looked it up on I looked it up to see people's rights in Minneapolis, and no, they don't have to get out the vehicle. But in a heightened situation like that, where you see they're agitated, why not comply? So I shared a story about me and my friend who was on the highway and we got pulled over, and how the gun was drawn on my side. And I told my friend to, when he received the directive from the other officer on his side to get the paperwork, license, registration, the usual, I told him to move slowly for both of our safety and especially for mine, since I had the firearm on my side. All right, and this is not a made up story. I can't make this up. I wouldn't want to make this up. That was the first, and God forbid, well, God willing, the last time I have a firearm pulled on me. It was that scenario that I just told you that happened on the Long Island Expressway. The other scenario that I'm sharing, and this is all ties into just complying. Other scenario, I was in New Jersey. I was driving. I made a turn in a neighborhood, and this is like, we're talking before cell phones were as advanced as they are now. I think I was using like a Garmin or something like that for navigation, because the vehicle I had didn't have navigation in it. Vehicles didn't have much navigation at the time. And I was in New Jersey and I turned down a block. There was construction going on. I didn't notice the police car was to the side. And so as I'm driving in, I'm not speeding in. I was moving forward to see what was going on, because sometimes with construction, if they're chopping down branches from a tree and so forth, you might be able to go around. So I proceeded to go forward, and then the police car put the siren on, and it startled me. And then I realized, oh, let me stop. And I was cruising. I wasn't speeding because I was paying attention to what was in front of me. The officer, the New Jersey police officer, came out of the vehicle in such a rage. He came out with the rage as though he found out that I was messing with his wife. And I don't mean to be funny in such a sensitive and serious episode, but I'm telling these real stories because I don't want this to come across as I'm attacking Renee. I'm just having a conversation so those of you watching this episode, we could all learn from this and take from it what we will. But may Renee rest in peace. This police officer came out of his vehicle with such a rage. he was yelling at me while I'm in the vehicle. What are you doing? And I can't remember it verbatim, but he was livid, yelling at me, told me to back up and turn the other way. I'll be honest with you, the energy that he came with scared the shit out of me. All right. He told me to back up, so I backed up and reversed and got out of there. And I said to myself, I don't ever want to deal with New Jersey. I think I dealt with New Jersey maybe a week or so more than that, but after that scenario, but it just left a stain in my mind for New Jersey police officers. And it's unfair to them because not all of them are like that. But that's how I felt with a complete stranger, although he represents law enforcement, he represents the law. Someone being that angry at a person who just made a wrong turn. Okay? I'm saying that because I complied. I didn't do anything to escalate. Now again, respectfully to Renee, she was out there for different reasons. When I was younger, I used to be part of I used to go to this I can't even remember what it was called. But it was like teen Bible study at this Baptist church that I used to go to when I was younger. And at it finished late at night because it was a Friday thing for teens. A group of us, maybe a group of, let's just say 8, were walking back to our neighborhood. We all got pulled over by law enforcement. First of all, they followed us as we walked on the sidewalk for a few feet with the light shining on us as we're walking. Then eventually they cut us off and kind of like drove up on the sidewalk. They came out. We were all startled, and they told us to line up against the wall and put our hands on the wall. And this is me and a group of my friends leaving a church event. All right, these are real stories. Real stories. I'm not making this up. And this all has to do with complying. Never in my mind did I thought, or any of my friends at the time thought, to run because we were startled, or run because we just wanted to run. We all lined up against the wall. They patted us down. My older sister happened to be, I think she was further back from the group, and she started to like question the officers. What are you doing? They told her step back. They told her step back, and she listened. She stepped back as they were patting us down. Come to find out, they stopped us because a robbery happened somewhere on Main Street. And so that was their reason for stopping us. Do I believe them? I don't know if I believe them. But I'm not here to bash NYPD. I'm just here to share the story of me complying. One thing that just came to mind as I'm doing this episode, as I fight this cold, I'm just sharing my perspective on this, again, respectfully to Renee Good. I may not even get through all these reactions because I'm seeing that me sharing this story is making it lengthy. Gentlemen watching this episode, no matter what nationality you are, ladies, if you're watching this episode, remember I said this, I'm saying all of this respectfully to Renee Good. She wasn't out there as just someone passing by. She was out there with a purpose. I'm not saying she deserved to lose her life, but I am saying scenarios would have been different if she fully complied. If you take that as me disrespecting Renee Good's memory, I apologize. That was not my intentions. I'm saying all of this because complying has allowed me to make it to this age. And regardless if people feel like I've lost my rights by complying, regardless if people say that I'm a lame for complying, I've made this age by complying. And we're not even talking about interactions with people in the streets. That's a totally different subject, and I'll get into it at some point in time in my episodes. But complying with law enforcement, And I'm not even implying that law enforcement would take my life if I don't comply. What I'm trying to say is complying is not a bad idea. Okay? It's not a bad idea. And I'm going to tell you why it's not a bad idea, because of what this guy is going to say in his video. And I'm going to pause it when I get to that point. But let me just end that story for you. We were all patted down. It was like 8 of us all against the wall, patted down. Come to find out, they said, and I said this, that they found that there was a robbery. And whilst we were being patted down, they asked us where were we coming from. We said from Bible study. And I remember this like it was yesterday. I don't even remember if it was me or another one of my friends. We told them the address of the church, which wasn't too far away. But they had a job to do, and we let them do the job. They patted us down like we were criminals. Why would they think someone who robs, or people that rob a store, would be walking gingerly down the block? Because we weren't racing down the block. We were making jokes, laughing, having a good time. I don't know anyone that robs someplace and is making themselves so present in the streets to be caught. But NYPD had a job to do. They cut us off on the sidewalk and told us to line up against the wall with lights flashing on our backs as we're all lined up after doing Bible study on a Friday night. That's my experience as a black man. It's not Renee's experience. I don't know how she was raised, who raised her, what community she's been raised in. I don't know any of that. But I do know that complying is not a bad thing. And I say that respectfully. Let me get into this man's video, and I'm going to pause it when necessary.
The agent who shot and killed Renee Good, and we now have the footage that he was recording when that incident took place, and I'm playing it for you now, so warning if you don't think you can watch that. But I want you to pay attention to what she says and what he says.
That's fine, dude. I'm not mad at you. Show your face. I'm not mad at you. It's okay. We don't change our plates every morning, just so you know. It'll be the same plate when you come talk to us later. That's fine. U.S. citizen, former fucking country. You want to come at us? You want to come at us? I said go.
And let me just say, Renee seemed like a sweet woman. Just her tone alone, she was a sweet woman. If only she would have just complied. I wish she would have still been here. It's a very sad event.
Yourself some lunch, big boy. Go ahead.
Out of the car. Get out of the fucking car. Get out of the car.
Whoa!
I'm sorry for not saying viewer discretion. I should have said that prior to playing this, but you heard the directive, get out of the car.
Out of the car.
Whoa!
I heard get out of the car at least twice. And then, from the other angles we saw, she backed up and drove. You're gonna have to forgive me for these edits and me coughing. I apologize. I'm gonna play some more reactions, and I'm just gonna wrap up because I really want to hear your thoughts. And remember, I'm saying I chose to do this episode because I really wanted to speak about this. Because not just because it's trending, but I think it's a conversation worth having, and because I honestly didn't see anyone speaking on what I just spoke about, and maybe because they don't want to disrespect Renee and her passing, and I understand that, and I can respect that, and I do not intend to disrespect Renee by having this episode and voicing my opinion, but I just wish other choices would have been made. I can't speak on the agent because I don't know what his training's like. I don't know what their training is like as agents, and I don't know their protocol, so I can't just speak just off of the video as many people are speaking. But yeah, let me just play this this video.
In my personal opinion. So that's where I'm at. I think both sides are wrong, and I think that there probably should be accountability. Or, like, that can't be the go-to for training. I saw Christy Noem try to say, oh, well, this is what they're trained to.
Well, I like that he said both sides are wrong, and I'm assuming he's talking about the decisions made by both Renee and the agent.
That cannot be.
Folks, I'm gonna make this my last video for this episode. I don't want to make this too long, and I'm really battling this cold. So
That's where I think both sides are wrong, and I think that there probably should be accountability. Or, like, that can't be the go-to for, I'm trying to say, oh, well, this is what they're trained to do. That cannot be the go-to. It cannot be the go-to that you just immediately jump out of your car, rush some woman who stopped in the street, try to reach into her vehicle, yank her out of her car, and then shoot her in the face when she panics. That ain't it, guys. And so what's going to happen from here? I'm sure we're going to see massive protests, probably riots. And Minneapolis just can't catch a break, huh? I guess this is actually about a mile away from where the George Floyd events happened as well. Also, what's going on with the big Somali fraud schemes and all that. Minnesota is struggling right now for sure. But again, guys, I would say just try to have a little bit of empathy, right? There's a child that no longer has parents right now. And at a minimum, we should not be cheering on government agents shooting unarmed U.S. civilians in the face in the middle of neighborhoods. So that's my personal opinion on that. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Obviously, very emotionally charged topic, but that'll do it for this one. Catch you on the next one.
So I'm going to end it there. I have other things queued up, but I'm not going to play it. So I think that's a good way to end. Just let this takeaway be for those of you watching this. Doesn't hurt to comply. Regardless if you feel like you're being wronged, you could always double back and look to take legal action if need be. But it doesn't hurt to comply. That's all I have on this episode because I'm struggling to get through this episode. As always, I appreciate everyone for tuning in. If you haven't already, hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, and as always, stay honorable.